In this video, we're going to be looking at specific policies from the last two budgets that have been used to improve educational outcomes. This is a really critical video that will look at exactly what policies to talk about. And the first one is the Gonski 2.0. Basically, they came up with Gonski 1 and now they're up to Gonski 2. The aim of the Gonski is to provide a better school system and provide schools, teachers and parents with the tools and capabilities to help students reach their full potential. So they're putting more funding into improving the quality of schools and to ensure that this funding will provide better educational outcomes, and a lot of the funding is going towards disadvantaged schools. So when you're talking about the funding for Gonski 2.0, there's more funding in it for disadvantaged schools. In terms of the dynamics of Gonski 2.0, David Gonski is the Gonski, and he's reported on Australia's schooling system and has identified particular weaknesses in our schooling system. So these weaknesses include decline in student achievement, age-based rather than development approaches to differentiating learning goals, and failure to prepare students for a complex and rapidly changing world. So we're not challenging students, they're not prepared for the rapidly changing world, and student achievements are falling. What he's trying to do with this Gonski 2.0, so when you're explaining what the nature of it is, he's trying to get students to focus more on problem solving and social skills, as well as critical thinking skills, which he believes, and the education system more generally believes, are critical for the uncertain future of the workforce. So the focus of Gonski 2.0 is to develop a curriculum that focuses more on problem solving, social and critical thinking skills. Now, it proposes to begin with two general capabilities, focusing on critical and creative thinking and personal and social capability. So what he's trying to do is trying to get schools to measure these two things throughout their curriculum and show how they're achieving progress in each of these domains. The idea is that with these skills, we will then have graduates will have more of the capabilities required to succeed in the workforce. So Gonski 2.0, when you're describing it, keep it brief, but it includes funding for disadvantaged schools, as well as a focus on continual reporting of critical and thinking and creative skills, as well as social skills that will be needed for the ever-changing workforce. STEM funding is also a key thing that's occurred. So to ensure that Australians have the skills necessary to survive in the changing economy, they're putting $4.5 million over 4 years to encourage particularly women into education in careers in science, technology, engineering and maths. So extra STEM funding will be provided at mainly the primary school level, and will be targeted towards helping ensuring that more women engage in the STEM subjects. And it builds on an already established initiative called the National Innovations in Science Agenda. Tertiary funding, the government's going to provide $28 million to expand more bachelor places for those in rural and regional areas. So what they're going to do is set up a lot of infrastructure to help people in these areas to get access to education. And they will also spend $14 million to fund additional Commonwealth supported places for bachelor students. So what they're going to do is provide more university places for those in regional areas. Okay, the third one I'd be focusing on, I'd be talking about the Gonski, I'd be talking about the funding for STEM, and from a vocational point of view, they're investing $1.5 billion in a Skilling Australians Fund. So this Skilling Australians Fund is mainly related to apprenticeships, trainees and pre-apprentices, and it's designed to try and improve the skills of these workers that are in high demand and going to be necessary in the future. So as part of this funding, they're going to spend $60 million for specialist mentoring for Australian apprentices. So they're going to have specific professionals to help them through their 4-year apprenticeship program and give them advice and skills to help them succeed in the workforce. Okay, so again, if you're going back to what are they doing with education and training expenditure, we've got the Gonski 2.0 in accordance with increased STEM funding, and from a vocational level, they're putting $1.5 billion into the Skilling Australians Fund, and that money's coming from the levy that they're going to put on temporary migrants. So you can include that in your explanation. And the idea of that is to provide a lot of specialist mentoring for apprentices, as well as to provide more funds for just training up and skilling these apprentices and trainees. Wouldn't worry about that one. There's probably enough there to talk about anyway. The childcare package, they're trying to make the childcare system more flexible, and that includes a reduction in subsidies for those that are earning over $350,000, but also providing more assistance to provide more funding for those in rural and remote communities. So this will help provide more chance for people to get back into the workforce in remote and rural areas. Again, probably not the one I'd focus on. I'd probably be sticking more with the STEM, the $1.5 billion Skills Fund and the Gonski 2.0. There's also a Quality Schools package which is designed to provide fair and needs-based school funding, and what that is 18.6 billion of additional funding over 10 years to create a simpler, fairer and more affordable childcare system. Sorry, not childcare system, to education system. And as part of the National Partnership Agreement on Access to, it includes the National Partnership Agreement on Universal Access to Early Childhood Education. So it's supporting preschool programs mainly, looking at childcare, but also comes into the primary school setting as well. So $18.6 billion is going to be spent to try to improve access to early childhood education. Okay, another one. This is probably the fourth one that I'd focus on. Okay, so we've got the fund, the Skilling Australians, the STEM program, the Gonski, and the last one I'd be focusing on is the English language learning for Indigenous children. So they're going to spend $5.9 million to try and come up with a range of sort of play-based activities and apps to try and encourage Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders into improving their English skills. So coming up with fun and engaging ways which we can improve the English language skills of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children. And the last one, the higher education reform package, is trying to make the education system more responsive to students' needs and more equitable for underrepresented groups. So what it's going to do is it includes a higher education. It's going to hold higher education institutions accountable for taxpayers' funding. It includes a VET student loans program. Again, probably not one that I'd be focusing on. It's probably too much to it. If I'm looking at 4 as a summary, the Gonski 2.0, which is about needs-based funding, as well as providing critical thinking and social skills that the students are going to need. The STEM, particularly for women, to try and engage them in the workforce. The $1.5 billion Skilling Australians Fund, which will include skills advice for small businesses, 200,000 training places, which I didn't talk about, will be provided as part of this fund, and vocational training for apprenticeships and trainees to try and get them into the workforce. As a past policy, you've got the Youth Job Path program, and then as a secondary thing, you've got things like the English language learning for Indigenous students, and the Restart program, which will help to subsidise and improve training for older workers. Thank you.